Just 1 week after the release of the new set, we have already our first B patch, addressing particularly nerfing one specific comp, which was Annie, AMP, and Strategist, which was definitely the strongest comp, but I do think this nerf was a little bit too harsh. In this video, I'm going to share with you the 5 top comps that pro players are spamming in order to reach Challenger and the highest elo possible. But also I'm going to share with you the tier list basically of all the comps, because you have more than 5 comps you can play. All of them are arguably able to win some games, and of course the S tier comps have more chance of making you win. So if you ever need that tier list, which is updated every day, you simply need to click on the link in the description and bookmark the spreadsheet I'm maintaining every day, so you can be sure that this is going to be up to date with the meta. So let's start first with probably the most broken of the most broken comp. I'm quite surprised that Cypher hasn't been touched. It's definitely overtuned, gives way too much resources. Every pro players will literally say the same thing as I do. Preparing a full guide on how to play Cypher, especially like optimizing your cash out and your health. So that's why I'm going to be a little bit short here, but you can expect that video to come soon. What's really important is the cash out. So if you play Cypher and you don't have the perfect spot because someone griefed you, you don't have a perfect low streak, or you put Cypher a little bit too late, or whatever reason, you may want to aim for 290 intel. It gives a lot of good resources. It's probably one of the best risk to reward ratio. You can cash out that at stage 3-7. You don't need to cash out too late, so you can even save a lot of health thanks to that. I don't know why the 290 is so good compared to like the others. Like 310 is really not that great. Like you just look at this and 310, you're like, what the fuck, I'm on this every day. But anyway, if you have augments that give you more health, or heart orb that give you 10 health, you can also consider something like more than 400 intel. So this is an example of 410, which is nice. You also have a 450 that gives you literally everything you need to get started at stage 4. And of course, you can go also further and beyond depending on your situation. But let's say that if you manage to get that 500 and more, it means that you have a really good game about Cypher, and probably you don't need really my help in that. But anyway, yeah, 290 is really good in case you don't have the perfect loss streak, which can happen sometimes. So then if you want to play Cypher, so this is what I recommend for people who don't like to pivot out completely, is to play Zed with Zeri. They go very well together, and your late game carry is going to be Renekton on top of all of you already have. And you just play 4 Bastion like this. It's really, really simple, especially that you have a loss streak, you have priority on the carousel to find your items. You should have a lot of resources and gold since you have a good loss streak, and probably you cashed out some resources with a Cypher. So really, really easy to play. I recommend that. The best augments that you really want to have if you want to maximize your game is like anything that gives you health, or calculated loss that basically goes well with your loss streak strategy. Final reserves, I forgot to put it, I will put it after the video. You have last stand that's completely broken, and for the artifacts, usually you want that to have either on Zed or Renekton, but let's say that you want on Zed because it's more realistic. Trench coats only if you have the Edge of Night. You can have Death Defiance, Infinite Force. Prowler's Claw is okay, it's just like it gives good stats. Same for Gold Collector, it's good stats. But yeah, Zed is a good holder of artifacts. Okay, now let's talk about the AP comp that probably going to replace entirely Annie and Samira. It's a Strategist with Brand and Ziggs. So I look at the stat, and honestly, it doesn't have a huge difference between optimizing around Brand and Ziggs. I would say that if you play around Brand, you want to make sure like Kobuku is your cyber boss. Even though he got nerfed, he's still a good late game tank and side carry. If you play around Ziggs, however, you may want to see if you can fit in 4 cyber boss, but I don't really like that as well, because you have to fit very bad units like Veigar and Poppy. But anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it. You want to play 4 strategists. You want to have a lot of late game units. Garen that will give you the strategist mods, which are literally broken. Like honestly, if you have the Brand setup and you manage to have a Garen that gives strategist to Brand, you literally have the same version as Ziggs, but it's just better. That's pretty much it. That's why I prefer the Brand version, as it helps you to cap your board a little bit better for the late game. But anyway, if you can't find brand, use Ziggs. It's really good as well. You might say like a 3 techie is weird, but at the same time, like I don't want to play 4 techie. I don't want to play Veigar to have 3 Cyberboss and 4 techie instead of something like Garen. Garen is way too valuable to just remove for a freaking Veigar that does nothing except giving like a little bit of AP and that's it. So really not worth it. Garen is 10 times better. So if you want to play this comp, you may want to play your level 8 as cheaply as possible. So it means that you will need, of course, to find some of the focus units. But honestly, don't be like too picky with the units that you will find at stage 3 or 4. If you find Ziggs, play Ziggs. If you find Brand, play Brand. If you find Leona, play Leona. If you find, I don't know, Sejuani, play Sejuani. Doesn't matter as long as you're strong enough to win fights without digging too much into your economy, so you can push level 9 and have this. The level 9 is way too important to stay stuck at level 8. So yeah, try to avoid going too deep into your gold. This is an alternative stage 4. Like I said, like if you find Brand, play Brand. If you find Ziggs, play Ziggs. Doesn't matter, play Mordekaiser is cheaper probably than Leona, but if you find Leona, play Leona. Like it's a lot about being flexible and play what you find first and stabilize with the least amount of gold possible. Surprisingly, for the next comp, they didn't touch Vayne at all. I think Vayne is still one of the best tier comp. Honestly, I think this comp, the only problem with this comp is like it requires specific items. Especially Ginzu, Runan, or Ginzu, Runan. If you cannot manage to make at least one Ginzu, one Runan, this comp is not going to be good, so that's the biggest challenge. The way you want to play it in the very late game is to have 4 Slayers, 4 Vanguard, and then you add Renekton and Sejuani to have Bastion, but especially that Renekton is going to give more attack speed to all your units, especially Vayne and Zed. They're going to love this. If you manage to have Rast 3, I suggest you to feed it to Renekton. Renekton then can become an extremely reliable late game carry. And that's pretty much it, the way you want to play. The way you want also to play this comp is like before reaching this very late game, you can have a cheap level 8 board that is very cost efficient with 6 Vanguards and basically the same comp with 3 Slayers. 6 Vanguards at stage 4 is extremely durable and difficult to kill. So really don't hesitate to have this cheap board as long as you have your 3-star Vayne and at least Rast 3 or something like this to make sure you have a lot of health in the front line. But of course, before reaching that, what you need to do is to reroll at level 6. So at level 6, you reroll for your 2 cost units, especially Vayne, of course. You will look for 4 Vanguard, and you have this awkward position with 3 Slayers, but honestly, it doesn't really matter. It's more important to have 4 Vanguard and Vayne and another Slayer, especially Senna, who can give a little bit of AD to your Vayne. But you can also not find Senna immediately. You can add another Anima Squad or whatever. But for sure, like you will reroll at level 6, meaning that you stay level 6 and you find Vayne 3 and potentially Rast 3 or Skarner 3. Even though Skarner is not necessarily a unit you will keep it long, but it can still give you a good amount of frontline during the mid game. For the best moments, for sure, if you have too much value, this is exactly the comp you want to go. It gives you a lot of free rolls, so you can play your 2-cost unit quite easily. Category 5 is kind of insane because it goes well with Runan. You can also aim for Vanguard as it gives you an opportunity to play 6 Vanguards in the very late game. And also, like imagine that you have Vanguard on Renekton, you play 6 Vanguard, like this is insane. And then after some other generic augment that just makes sense for this comp. The next comp I want to talk about is Executioner Rengar. So you might find that funny, Rengar got a little bit nerfed, but let's check the stats. Even after the nerf, he got better. I think it's not because the nerf made it better, it's simply because we started to optimize this comp much better compared to last week. And also maybe because Annie got superly nerfed, it just made this comp even better, simply because his main competitor got nerfed even harsher. So basically in terms of relative strength, you are better. But anyway, this comp is all about Varus and Rengar. These are the 2 3-cost you want to reroll. And of course, you want to make sure that you give the best items to Rengar, which is Bloodthirster, Hand of Justice, and Titan's Resolve. If you play set 13, you probably remember Smitch. This is exactly the same kind of build. And behind you have a AP carry / utility with Varus, who can stun, apply Morello quite well, and stuff like that. Of course, your main win condition is to reach level 9 and find Urgot that gives you Executioner and gives a lot of durability to your units. You also want to have Garen, who can give you Executioner on Viego, and oh boy, this is really good. Of course, you can also have Strategist on Rengar or Varus thanks to the mod of Garen if you have it long enough. So the way you want to reroll at level 7 is obviously to play 4 Executioners. Unless you're really lucky and you find Urgot, you're going to play something like Strategist. Like, it's like a filler. LeBlanc is a filler. You can have a Strategist, you can have, of course, if you have your gut, you put your gut immediately. You can have something like another Divini Corp to give a little bit more stats to your units. It doesn't really matter. What's really important is you find Nico and Vex, which are the key units you really want to have at level 7, because it strengthens your team quite a lot. Once you have your 3 stars, push level 9, try to aim to find Urgot and whatever scale this way. If you manage to have this setup, I check the stats, you have like 1.8 average place, which is kind of insane. So yeah, this comp is really good. In terms of augments, you can start with Cut Purse. It can give you a lot of gold and snowball your gold from that. You can play something like a Rig Shop, help you have a lot of chances to find your 3 costs. You can have Eric Grab Bag if it gives you enough tempo, so you can have your 3 stars fast, and then after you push your level fast to get Urgot. So this is a very good tempo type of augment. Of course, the Executioner emblems allows you to have 5 exec without hitting Urgot. That can be quite nice. Mace is really insane, and Trifecta are really good. And finally, I'm going to feature one comp that's Exotech Zeri. Is getting more and more popular lately. I don't consider this to be S tier, except if you have these items with Exotech. If you have these items with Exotech, we can consider this comp being S tier. But if you have the other items, I would suggest like maybe not try to play it because these are not that great. So since it's conditional, I would suggest that this comp is very advanced and not necessarily for beginners, and especially like if you cannot get these items. So this comp is very straightforward. You play 7 Exotech and that's pretty much it. If you have the emblem, it's perfect. You have one of the best setup. You just play Zeri, you put these items, like I said, on Zeri with the Ginzu, and she's going to be extremely powerful. And then after, you basically rely on Aurora to be your very late game unit. If you have augments that give more items, or if you're in a map that gives a lot of items, consider stuffing Jhin with IE, pretty much a standard Jhin build. Even if he's 2 stars, he's going to deal like 3k, 4k per fight. So really worth investing a few items if you have too many of them. If you don't have an emblem, it's a little bit harder, but you still play 7 Exotech. Instead of Viego, I guess you play Nathari, which is something I don't really like. Like you remove such a good unit for something like this. You can argue that if you have excellent items on 3 Exotech and 5 Exotech, maybe you don't need to play 7 Exotech. You can remove Nathari, you can remove Varus, and you just play better units like Viego and stuff like that. But it all depends about the Exotech items you have, because the most important is to have the good Exotech items on Zeri. That's why I think this comp is a little bit harder for beginners, because there's a lot of nuances. But on the other hand, it can also be extremely easy to play if the stars align and you just have the perfect items. You don't even need to think about what to do or what to build. Of course, the best augments are Exotech emblems that allows you to remove Nathari and just scale your comp even better for the late game. The Exotech augments that give you more Exotech items, really nice actually. I would suggest like if you have Saber deck, that's a straight no brain comp to play. And after like combat augment, generic combat augment, I don't put all of them because like there's so many of them. I just put like some of them because I think these ones are really, really powerful. And you have also to consider that some other combat augment are great. All right, that's it for this week, for this B patch. I hope this B patch is going to shift the meta a little bit. I do think the meta is a little bit too generous with the resources. We can easily go for fast 9, even fast 10 if we high roll a little bit our champions during the early or mid game. And I think this is a little bit too much. But anyway, this is going to be addressed the next week. And next week we will have a new meta. You can count on me to make another meta tier list like this one. And in case you miss the video, you can always go back to the spreadsheet because I'm going to maintain it every day. See you at the top of the ladder.